Hey everybody, it's GauntletX and welcome back to some more Magic Arena. Today I'll be playing another traditional draft of Dominaria United. Without further ado, let's see where the cards take us today. So for this pack, we've got a pretty powerful rare, the Guardian of Dominaria, a 2-mana 2/2 with Enlist, and whenever it enlists a creature, you scry 2. It can also protect itself by discarding any card to give it indestructible till end of turn. Pretty dang powerful card. I'm pretty happy to scoop that up, pick one, pack one. It's not the most flexible thing ever because you do want to be pretty aggressive with this card, but most white decks can be pretty aggressive in this format. But I could see Lightning Strike or Tribute to Urborg being a super good first pick as well, because these are just great cheap removal spells. They really fit into anything. So really, my top three here are Guardian, Lightning Strike, and Tribute, but I'm just going to roll with the Guardian. Pretty powerful rare. Scoop that up. For pack 1, pick 2 now, we don't have a whole lot to follow that up. We have Join Forces, which is a fine trick, but white has some really good tricks in this format. The 2-mana Take Up the Shield is super good, so I would prefer my non-creature spells get kind of taken up by those kind of tricks. This is a pretty weak pack in general. I mean, there's a Gaia's Might, which is a great trick if you have a lot of domain. There's a lot of nonsense, a lot of filler creatures in like every color, a lot of filler spells, the rare's bad. Battlewing Mystic's the best card in this pack, but it does have to be blue-red for it to get some huge value, otherwise a 2-mana 2/1 flyer is just okay. Pretty on par with like a 3-mana 2/3 flyer, which is fine. Really unexciting pack here. I would have been really sad if I opened this one. I guess I'll just roll with the Battlewing Mystic here. I don't really see a huge reason to take anything super specific. Not a great pack whatsoever. For pick 3 now, we actually see a little bit of gas. We've got a Tory Davenant Fury Rider, which is good in exactly one deck in the format, which is Boros aggro, so that could be fine for us if we want to head in that direction. There's a Griffin Protector, which is okay for any white deck. Joda's Codex, which is pretty good for a slower domain strategy. Another Gaia's Might for that huge trick, and some solid filler creatures like Bog Badger, a very solid domain creature, the Sojourner. I think I'm going to go for the Tory Davenant Fury Rider. See if we can't start moving into a Boros aggro build with our Guardian of Dominaria. Not a lot that looks particularly good for us here, although this pack is definitely better than that second pack. There's a Phyrexian Espionage for decent card draw. Bone Splinters is fine removal with a lot of token production. Molten Monstrosities, okay, if you have a lot of very high power creatures or a lot of tricks to help get there. Amplifier could be good in blue-red. Haven't been a huge fan of Connoisseur, but it can be fine over a very long game. Once again, this pack has stuff, but nothing excellent for us. I think we just take Espionage as another blue card to go along with the Battlewing Mystic. It's also one of my favorite cards in this pack. Probably my favorite card in the pack, period. Not an incredible pack, but do what we can there. Alright, here we've got a really great blue common, the Talus Lookout. 4 mana for a 3/2 flyer. When it dies, look at the top 2 cards of your library, put 1 into your hand and 1 into your graveyard. So just a great evasive threat that replaces itself when it dies. There's also a Citizen's Arrest, which is pretty solid removal in white, and Love Song of Night and Day, which is a solid creature in white. 3 mana for a 1/1 flyer, and then put a +1/+1 counter on that, and another creature. There's also 2 dual lands that both involve white. Those would be interesting picks. I think I want to start pushing into blue. The most solid cards we've been seeing have been in blue, outside of this white card here, Citizen's Arrest. I could take the Citizen's Arrest, and we have 2 white, 2 blue, and just pushing into blue-white here, but I'm going to take the Lookout. Don't want to get too married to my pick 1. Pack 1, well, if we see a Knight of Dawn's Light, pretty big white signal there. Seeing Citizen's Arrest into Knight of Dawn's Light getting passed to us, so I guess we're moving to blue-white, ideally. This is a 2-mana 2/2 first striker. It can buff itself for 2 mana, so it's just really hard to block that thing well at all, and it gets a lot of damage in late in the game. Definitely the best card in that pack. Now it's definitely Citizen's Arrest. And I guess we're blue-white good stuff. There's a Sojourner in here, which is pretty good. Dual land is solid, but for our deck, Citizen's Arrest is incredible. Well, not incredible, but it's good. there are enchantment removal spells in the format that can really ruin your day if you're trying to kill things with Citizen's Arrest. Guess we take a drawbridge here. I don't really like drawbridge that much unless you're specifically a defender's deck or a very controlling deck. We're neither of those right now, but it would help speculate if we open up a Wingmantle Chaplain. I could also just take a Tributary in case we want to splash some red. We do for Battlewing Mystic's ability at the least. I'm actually going to take Tributary over the Clockwork Drawbridge, and I am a big fan of the Phalanx. White's main theme in this format is spreading out, going wide, making a bunch of creatures, and Phalanx works quite well in a deck like that. Shore Up's actually quite nice as well. Counter a removal spell for pretty cheap. But I want to jump in on all this white stuff now. We wheeled every white card out of this pack, but they weren't that great. Stall for Time actually pretty solid if you have access to the kicker effect. So I think I'll take that over the Join Forces. Go for some other tricks here. This pack didn't have much in it in the first place, but we didn't wheel much either. Did wheel the Tablet, which is interesting for Domain, or just the Steel Crusher. I'm not a huge fan of Impede Momentum. I like permanently getting rid of creatures in this format, unless you're wildly aggressive. I guess an Amplifier here, potentially blue-red. Haven't been a huge fan of Founding the Third Path, kind of just 2 mana. You get to recast 1 instant or sorcery from your graveyard. So if you have some really good instants or sorceries, it's fine. But other than that, it's just a 1-for-1. Not doing anything particularly special. Well, I guess I should have speculated on that, whatever the heck it's called, that little tap drawbridge. There it is, Clockwork Drawbridge. Because we opened the Wingmantle Chaplain, and we're just going to take a Wingmantle Chaplain. If you've seen my last traditional draft, you'll know how absolutely absurd this card is. It is the mythic uncommon of the set. The highest win rate card outside of only the best of the best mythics and rares. It's literally like 5th out of every card in the entire set. Incredibly good. There are plenty of ways that you can build around this. You do have to build around this a little bit. Don't just shove this into any deck and expect it's going to auto-win. You have to build around it a little bit, but with just the smallest amount of build around, this card becomes absolutely absurd. You can either bring it back from your graveyard multiple times and get that ETB effect over and over again. You can get the Shield Wall Sentinel to tutor it out multiple times. You can play a lot of defenders, obviously. You want to do some combination of all those things, and now we have a Shield Wall Sentinel to tutor that out. Going to be pretty hard to pass that up. Being able to tutor out the Wingmantle Chaplain is pretty absurd. We'd like to wheel like an Urborg Repossession if we can. Having a Wingmantle Chaplain is a big enough reason to try splashing black just for a recursion like Repossession and Restoration. So we're going to take the Shield Wall Sentinel. We'd love to wheel the Arrest, the Cavalier, or the Repossession, most likely. If none of those wheel, I guess the Restoration or Shore Up would be fine. Kind of have to take Shield Wall Sentinel to go with that Wingmantle Chaplain. Now we have a Clockwork Drawbridge here. There's also a Talus Lookout, which is pretty great. Turret Kenyard I've always found to be a bit slow, so I haven't been a huge fan of that. Kind of same goes for Artillery Blast, only shooting tapped creatures. So I'm just going to take Drawbridge. Really pushing in on that Defenders theme now. Got a Gibbering Barricade here for the Defenders. We also have a Phalanx for white if I want to stick to that, but I think very, very happy to just start pushing into Esper to go with this Wingmantle Chaplain. I basically have 2 Wingmantle Chaplains, just like my last deck now, because I can tutor it up. I can't have 2 Chaplains out at once, but I will draw the Chaplain just as often as if I had 2 in my deck. So, take a Barricade now. Okay, there's a Phalanx, a Rager, Soaring Drake. We might push into white-black and splash the blue here. Blue is really just for Talus Lookout, Espionage, and Battling Mystic. It's possible we don't even main the blue here if we're not going to get any Academy Walls, and we can just take Phyrexian Rager here, which is the best card. Just a very good value play. It keeps you fueled. Start pushing into white-black with blue as the splash. How's our creature curve looking? Pretty good. We need more removal. That is for certain. Could play Espionage off the splash for some value. I don't really like any of these cards that much for this deck. Maybe Warleech? I really don't know there. Warleech is a pretty fun one. You mill yourself some cards and it's going to have power equal to the highest mana cost card in your grave. So if you have a lot of cost reduction cards, it can be really good. Eerie Soul Tender is great. Good way to recur your Wingmantle Chaplains or anything else. It also fills the grave for cards like the Warleech, which is fun. Black's main strategy in the format is caring about your graveyard. It's some self-mill shenanigans, as you can see from Soul Tender and Warleech. So similar to how White's main mechanic is going wide, Black's is filling that grave. I think I take Griffin Protector. Vivisector's fine too. Neither are excellent. Did wheel a Clockwork Drawbridge? Come on in, join the party, or a Barricade. I think I'd rather have second Drawbridge first before second Barricade. I like having a lot of cheap, like 1-mana defenders. But Barricade is a really good ability, especially if you get a bunch of birds, you start sacking them to gain some life. Both of these are great. I'm going to take the Drawbridge, though. Hard choice. We wheeled the Cavalier. Did not wheel the Urborg Repossession or the Shieldred's Restoration. That's rough. But, I mean, we wheel the Cavalier. We'll slap that in here. Seems like a great card for us. None of these seem like a great card for us. Pretty unhappy with any of these going in the deck. Sea Scavenger could be fine if we get a good enough mana base. I don't really want to play double Faith Bonder here. Then aside for now, I will play double Phalanx. Alright, I guess we'll just get double Faith Bonder anyway. What do we have here? We've got a Shadow Prophecy, which can be great card draw. Braid's Frightful Return can return a creature from graveyard to hand. No matter what, this is either return a creature from grave to hand and then draw a card, or return a creature from grave to hand and make your opponent sack a non-token, non-land card. So it's decent value every time. Decent little bit of recursion to go with that shield wall. I think Frightful Return's good here. Geyser's actually also great, even off the splash. Bounce an opposing threat or bounce our own Wingmantle Chaplain. I think I'd rather go for the main color card and take the Braid's Frightful Return here. Shadow Prophecy also great. Card draw, great to dig out what we need. Probably have to take a dual land here if I don't see a defender. I see a Flurfur's Vine Wall for defenders. That is it. So I'm just going to take a nice blue dual to help splash in some espionage type stuff if we want it. I don't know if the white-blue or blue-black dual is more helpful. They're both pretty on par. We've got a lot of black, a lot of white. Probably the blue-white. Take out the shield would be solid here. We actually are getting into a lot of combat despite the sub-theme of defenders, so take up the shield could be huge. Maybe I don't splash white and I take up the shield and just try to get into combat more. Or don't splash blue. Tribute to Urborg helps a lot in terms of removal. The problem with this is we really want blue mana available, but this will be our second removal spell, so it feels pretty dang important. So not having taken dual land here feels kind of rough. Also, passing up a Defiler of Faith is a little bit of a bummer, but this is by far the weakest of the Defilers. It's on par with like a decent uncommon. Just 5 mana for a 5/5 body. You get some 1/1s as you cast more spells, but by the time you've cast a 5 mana 5/5, you're not casting that many more spells, and just doesn't get through anything, doesn't protect itself in any way. I am in much more dire need of removal than just a big dork. Tolarian Terror is an okay splash. We could also go Necromask, which would make the Warleech better. Take the Cavalier to make the Phalanxes better and get more aggressive. I think that's probably where we want to be. So I'll take that Cavalier. Don't see any defenders here. There's a Tolarian Geyser that we can splash in. An Eerie Soul Tender number 2. Seems pretty good. Soul Tender also seems pretty good with Take Up the Shield, because the Soul Tender trades off all the time otherwise, like no matter what. Aaron is fine. Aaron has always been a little slow, but Aaron is fine. Aaron might be better than Soul Tender in here. Actually, probably is. We have 2 Cavaliers, and we have bird tokens potentially. See an Academy Wall we could splash in off blue for the Defenders theme. Or we just take a third Phalanx. Splashed in Wall is probably better than a third Phalanx. Ooh, Walking Bulwark, let's go. 1 mana little defender. This lets us start slapping our opponent with our defenders as well. That is a beautiful card for the deck. We'll scoop that up. Captain's Call works very well with Aaron Benalia's Ruin. It also works quite well with Argivian Phalanx and Griffin Protector and Gibbering Barricade. A pretty perfect card there. Now we'll take a Shadow Prophecy to help dig for the cards that we want. Over a third Phalanx. I've got 20 creatures right now. Yeah, I think I'd rather be digging for the cards I want with some good card draw. Impulse would be nice, but off the splash, not so much. I'll take a Splatter Goblin. Don't know if it makes the cut. Another Cavalier certainly does. I'm just getting Cavaliers all over the place here. I'm just going to start rare drafting to fill the vault faster. And then we're just going to run it back. Basically the same deck as last time, but it certainly happens. No Graveyard Recursion. This is definitely, or I guess one Graveyard Recursion spell. This is definitely a weaker Wingmantle Chaplain deck. There's a much less Chaplain build-arounds that we got here. But the core of our deck that doesn't involve the Defender sub-theme is more powerful. Just the black-white aggro deck. So I think it seems pretty fine to me. Mana base is rough, that's for sure. Mana base might be rough enough that we just don't play blue. Leaves our removal really bad though. Citizen's Arrest and Tribute to Urborg with no kicker. To cut 5 cards here, probably all creatures. Yeah, 21 creatures in here. And I have a Captain's Call, basically more creatures in my non-creature slot. If I cut 5 cards, I guess I could theoretically... One, two, three, 4, 5. I could cut almost every wall, but not every one. Probably would rather cut like Faith Bonder and stuff. Let's keep Shield Wall. Let's keep all the walls, I think. Again, it's not going to be as powerful as it was last time. Don't think Warleech is looking very good in here. We don't have a lot of high mana value cards in here, and we're not going to kick this. And Faith Bonder is just one of our weaker cards in general. We'll cut 2 of those. 2 more cuts. Stall for Time's weaker without the blue. Splatter Goblins are weakest 2-drop, just because Guardian of Nubenalia and Knight of Dawn's Light are incredible ones. And then we still have 5 creatures that cost 2 or less, which is where I like to be. Often it ends up just being 5 2-drops, but it's okay to only have a few 2-drops if you have multiple 1-drops as well. It's really, I just like having 5 or more things to do on turn 2 or earlier. And we've got that even without the Splatter Goblin. I do have a lot of 3s, so ideally I could cut one of these, but all these are really good. 3 Cavalier, Soul Tender, Rager. Aaron's honestly probably the weakest. But we need some kind of like, I wouldn't even say bomb, but some kind of like powerhouse to try to take over the game over time, and that's what Aaron's trying to do, albeit pretty slowly. Could cut the Griffin Protector, but I do like the Protector with triple Cavalier and Captain's Call. Yeah, I think I'll cut Splatter Goblin, Stall for Time, call it a deck. I guess with Phalanx costing like 4 or less, we don't have anything that costs more than 4, so we could also cut a land instead. Average 3. Yeah. Probably not, though. There's a lot of things where I'll want a ton of mana. I want to be able to use Aaron's ability while still casting spells. I want to cast a big draw spell late in the game and still have mana up, or play a creature and then still have mana up to cast this at instant speed. I want to be able to hold up tricks. Want to be able to activate multiple combat abilities and still cast spells potentially. Holding up a mana sink of the Barricade's ability, the Soul Tender's 5 mana ability. There's a lot of ways that I can utilize my extra mana pretty well. I think I do want the 17 lands, and I think this is going to be the deck. Alright, here we have the deck that we're going to be playing with today. It is a black-white tokens deck with a Defender's sub-theme. So a lot of the way that this draft started was a lot of good aggressive white cards like Guardian of Nubenalia, Knight of Dawn's Light, and some Cavaliers. And then we kind of opened up a Wingmantle Chaplain, and so took a few Defenders to go alongside that. We have a Shield Wall Sentinel, a Barricade, couple drawbridges, and a walking bulwark so that our defenders can even help with our aggressive strategy as well and start smacking our opponent in the face. We've got the very good combat trick of Take Up the Shield. We have only 2 removal spells, which could be a pretty big problem. Citizen's Arrest, Tribute to Urborg. That is, again, my biggest fear about this deck. But then we've got just a lot of ways to go wide. Again, Triple Cavalier, Captain's Call. We can use Aaron or Barricade to get a lot of value off of those tokens that we're using to go wide. We can try to end the game quickly with Griffin Protector if we're popping out a bunch of tokens with that, and some cheap Phalanxes to try to get on the board efficiently as well. So just trying to get pretty aggressive, close things out quickly. If that doesn't work, we've got this Defender's backup plan to try to grind out the game. So we'll see how the deck does as we head into Game 1. Alright, we're on the play in round 1 with a mono-white aggro deck, it looks like. Guardian of Nubenalia into Argivian Cavalier into Argivian Phalanx seems like a pretty good start to me that's worth not having the swamp in hand. Waiting on opponent to decide mulligans here. They are going to keep, so let's get the ball rolling. Alright, they'll start with a Contaminated Aquifer. We have drawn into a black card, so we are going to want to hit that swamp soon. Luckily, we still have Cavalier and Phalanx for the next 2 turns, so we only need that like 3 turns from now. Phyrexian Missionary, playing the 2-mana, 2/3 lifelinker. That card is absolutely absurd. Just going to lock off our 2/2 from attacking for now. I think I'd rather play Cavalier than Soul Tender to make Phalanx as easy to cast as possible. And I cannot enlist a summoning sick creature, so we have to just tap or pass the turn for now. Do not attack into the Phyrexian Missionary. Again, 3 toughness on a 2-mana card is nuts. Especially with 2 power to go alongside it, so it just eats 2/2s all day long. Phyrexian Missionary, a very efficient, very powerful card that I have drafted very highly in the past. Alright, they're going to pass turn now with all of their mana up, which means they could have some ridiculous tricks. If I drop an Eerie Soul Tender, the Phalanx costs 2, so I don't have enough mana to cast both. I could still play the Phalanx even if Guardian somehow dies here, so let's just attack with Guardian and list the 1/1, I think. I would rather discard a card than lose a Cavalier right now, and I get to scry 2 by enlisting on the Guardian. Could enlist the Cavalier instead. Yeah, I guess I might as well threaten more damage. I am going to play a 4/4 blocker after all this is said and done. I like Take Up the Shield a lot here. Not actually a big fan of Barricade, but I think it's probably still a good draw. Yeah, I think it's still probably worth it. Alright, opponent is going to take 4. Take our swamp, and we'll drop an Argivian Phalanx. Pass the turn. Next turn I have the mana to play the Soul Tender and the Take Up the Shield, which should be pretty nice. Juniper Order Rootweaver's coming in and putting a +1/+1 counter on the lifelinker, so they now have a 3/4 lifelinking blocker. Still not big enough to block our 4/2 indestructible Guardian of Nubenalia, so some very good work going to be done by that card. Alright, we get 1 bonus opportunity to decide if we want to scry that Barricade to the bottom. And if there's a Cavalier, I'll put the Cavalier above it. I'm just going to keep bouncing this Barricade around, I feel like. Just always having it as a backup to sack our 1/1s later. for bonus cards, but every time we see a better card, we'll put the better card above it. Root Weaver onto Guardian, so Root Weaver is going to trade for a Plains, which feels like a good deal for me. I guess I have to mill those cards that I just described at the top, but that means I have good options to bring back off Soul Tender. Ooh, many good options to bring back off Soul Tender. That feels ideal. It looks like just going wide here is working pretty well for us. Our opponent's down to 12 with one blocker. That one blocker does have lifelink, which is a bummer. Uh-oh. And now if they make any creature tokens, they'll make an additional 1/1 soldier. So potentially could make a lot of blockers here. Runic Shot, let's take up the shield. I would rather cast the Take Up the Shield than discard the Take Up the Shield, because by casting it, I get a counter there. I could also have just let that happen, but I feel like it's better to have as many creatures on this board as possible, especially ones that can attack into a 3/4 lifelinker. That's going to be really important. We've got a Griffin Protector to play, which is very nice, but I think I need to keep it in hand and threaten to discard it. And I may even actually do that. Shield Wall is definitely good here. Shield Wall is Wingmantle Chaplain coming up. Oh, they're going to take 10 here. Alright. I think now it is better to cast Griffin Protector than it is to hold it in hand to save the Guardian of Dominaria. Because Griffin Protector threatens lethal in the sky, which means they have to chump attack with Missionary into the Phalanx just to gain 3 life to not die in the sky. Then they have to somehow produce enough blockers, block everything else. So yeah, that is going to be the concession from our opponent. We're going to be 1-0 to start this round off. I think I'm just going to run it back. Didn't see a lot out of their deck. They didn't get to play a lot of spells. They had a Root Weaver, a Runic Shot, Queen All in All, and Phyrexian Missionary. Don't think we really have a sideboard here. May have somewhat forgot we were traditional drafting during the draft, where I should have drafted some more sideboard options, but we'll see. We'll see. Things are going okay so far, 1-0. This hand can be pretty awkward. Yeah, Braid's Fright Return doesn't really do much of anything until we have a creature in our graveyard, so the fact we kind of only have one spell here means I think we have to mulligan. Well, that's literally just as bad, but I'm not going to mulligan to 5. Well, we may have decided our fate this game. Ooh. Well, we get a drawbridge now. We get to slow our opponent down forever. That being said, they do seem like a big splashy domain deck that's going to have way bigger late game plays than we do. And that's a turn 3, 4, 6. That's pretty spicy. Could just stop the damage immediately, but I want to hit my opponent as much as I can as quickly as possible, so I'll take 4 damage to start hitting my opponent for 3 a turn with this Menace card. Great. I've not seen a single Destroy Evil in traditional draft pods, which is brutal because that card is exceptional against Citizen's Arrest. Oh, looks like nobody's really doing anything here. I guess I get to draw 2 off this Shadow Prophecy. I wonder which 2 I'll put in my hand. Come on out, Knight of Dawn's Light. Six mana available for my opponent. And they're just gonna pass the turn. They might be flooding out worse than I am. Go Rager pre-combat, so I have whatever I have drawn as an option during combat, and I know if I need to hold 3 mana up, which I do, because that's an Eerie Soul Tender. So ideally just not pumping this turn. And then here's Soul Tender. Just play a bunch of creatures. Wingmantle in the grave. Well, Soul Tender can get it back eventually. Bulwark in the grave too, that would have been another great one to draw because we've got multiple defenders here. That would be nice to attack with. Inscribed Tablet, just another land for our opponent, so yet another card that's just mana. Phyrexian Missionary with no creature in grave. Good blocker here, but Tribute to Urborg has some things to say about that. Or Clockwork Drawbridge, honestly. Yeah, I've got the mana, I should probably just Drawbridge it. Could hit for 1 more damage here, but then I can't hold up Tribute to Urborg. I'd rather hold up the Tribute. In case of some shenanigans, maybe our opponent tries to bite down or use a fight spell or something. And we can make it not work with the Tribute to Urborg. Okay, opponent gains 2 here, because they know that's just going to get tapped anyway. Another land. Yeah, they are really flooding out, good lord. Rough game for our opponent. It's just like all mana over there. We didn't really get to see what their deck's trying to do. They definitely have the access to the full domain. They had the Sojourner turn 3, which was pretty great, but they just did not draw more threats. It was all mana for them all day. Unfortunate stuff for them. It's going to be 2-0 for us. The first round is going to be a victory as we head into round 2. Play first here. Drawbridge into Chaplain. Not a lot of combinations of 2 cards in hand that I would keep, as we saw last game. I mulliganed a 2 non-land card hand. But Drawbridge and Chaplain, that's a combination I'll keep. They are pretty powerful cards, especially together. And now a Phalanx for after the Chaplain should be great. Splatter Goblin. More mana is definitely not great, but we've hit 1 non-land and 1 land. Another Splatter Goblin. Well, we can block those all day long with our Drawbridge and our Chaplain. Alright, we really do need to stop drawing lands now. We are 7 lands down, which means there's only 10 left in the deck of 30 cards, so exactly a 1/3 chance of lands every draw from now on. Those odds are pretty in our favor, 66% chance at non-land draws. Raid's Frightful Return. That is pretty beneficial to me. They do get to kill a bird, but do not need this swamp whatsoever. I guess that way they get to bring back the Splatter Goblin they sacked with the second part of the ability. Nice. That is pretty good. Not actually seen that play pattern before, interestingly enough. I just haven't played against a lot of Frightful Returns. But yeah, get the Splatter Goblin back, that's value. And they're going to draw another card off the third part. Mesa Cavalier. That'll trade into our bird. Shield Wall Sentinel here is pretty nice. Probably Shield Wall for Barricade, don't I? I think I do. Take a double block Phalanx here, I guess. Double block Phalanx and kill the bird. It's probably their best line. Is it worth not attacking with Phalanx because of that? Probably not, because they're just going to have another Splatter Goblin out next turn anyway. Yeah, Phalanx is going to get double blocked at some point, pretty much regardless, and they're going to have more Splatter Goblins to do the double blocking later. Yep, makes sense. I guess I could draw 2 and try to take up the shield here. That would be pretty explosively impactful. And Shield Wall Sentinel still gets me value at a later time. You know what? Sure. Okay. Not the perfect draws there, but they're fine. We get a Rager now. That we can drop for the turn is not bad. They already have 6 cards in hand here. They're going to have a lot of cards no matter what I do. But Rager just runs right into a Splatter Goblin anyway. Phyrexian Warhorse, welcome. It's a big one. Got a Cavalier, and now I have the mana to Shield Wall and Barricade this turn. This is not going to be a good Bulwark game. Our opponent has some very good blockers with great death triggers and stuff. We're just going to sit on our defenders. Barricade, we get to now chump with the Spirit we're making off Cavalier. Connoisseur is actually incredible here. That's a problem. That is very, very good against Barricade. It's a +1/+1 counter whenever a creature dies once per turn. I guess I just need to tap that down in their turn every turn. So I need to hold 3 mana up at all times. So I can't play Cavalier and sack a thing and tap down Connoisseur. I could do that with Guardian of New Benalia, but then there's nothing I want to sacrifice. Right, because I just want to sacrifice a soldier token. I don't want to sacrifice a bird. Sacrificing a bird's still probably worth it, though, if I get to tap down this turn as well. Yeah. I also don't have to block Warhorse yet. Oh, I do still get to tap down. Well, I don't get to tap down and sack a thing. What am I talking about? But I could play Cavalier, tap down, and not sack a thing this turn. Actually also seems fine, so we'll do that. We have officially gone wide. Heron would be incredible on this board state. Okay, we're gonna tap down Connoisseur every turn. Chump block Warhorse, gain a life, draw a card every turn. Warhorse can be 4 toughness and 5 power max. I could double block with a 2/4 and a 2/2. But then I lose the Barricade, which I don't think is worth it. But opponent does not like that trade, and we've drawn it to take up the shield, which is going to make that really, really good stuff. On blocks. I could attack with the Guardian of New Benalia here. Threatening to discard a card, give indestructible. But then I would just cast Take Up the Shield instead, which is still pretty good. We enlist the Cavalier, I guess. Yeah, probably fine. I get to scry 2 by doing this, so it's almost definitely worth it. Set up these draws, get any lands out of the way. Another Cavalier seems awesome. Drawbridge is actually great too. Drawbridge is basically a cheaper Cavalier that also locks down creatures, because I get another bird from Chaplain, so we actually go Drawbridge then Cavalier. But both of these cards are great. Okay, Warhorse is going to block the Guardian of Numenalia. We're going to cast the Take Up the Shield rather than discarding it. It is more value this way. And we get to gain a ton of life here. Okay, they're going to sack the Warhorse so we gain no life, but we still get the +1/+1 counter. But that was a good line from our opponent. Just get rid of that value. Could draw a Drawbridge right now, but I'm not going to do that. I would rather have the ability to tap with Drawbridge and sacrifice with Barricade. Urza assembles the Titans, so they have a Planeswalker in their deck if they're running that. Scry 4, then reveal the top. If it's a Planeswalker, put it in hand. Literally the card just designed to tutor up Planeswalkers. That is terrifying. They must have Liliana, I guess. Liliana is not good here, though. If they have Liliana, it's no problem whatsoever. If they have a Johnny's actually okay here. But that could be what they have off a green splash or something. Maybe they have Karn. Karn is colorless. They could have Karn. Tap the Connoisseur down. Okay. Double Drawbridge. Just make sure we have things on lock. Can't give the Guardian Indestructible now, so I just attack with the Flyers, but I know that my draws coming up are good. Could attack with Cavalier instead. That trades into Goblin and I lose a bird, so that doesn't feel great. So we are just on the bird plan now. Take it nice and slow. Most Planeswalkers will be perfectly fine against, because we'll just bird them away. Shadow Prophecy, opponent is digging for that Planeswalker they're trying to assemble. Actually, I probably should have attacked with Guardian because I could just activate Barricade multiple times. Just sack 1/1s instead to get the cards I need to discard to give the Guardian Indestructible. I don't know, again, this format is absolutely full of just absolutely massive board states and incredibly long games. Which can be fun for a time, but it does get a little grating. There's just so much to think about, so many on-board interactions quite often. But I guess it really depends on your kind of deck. There are plenty of decks that just have like no abilities on board. Like some of my big green domain decks where I'm just like, alright, 4/6, 10/10. Abilities are for chumps. Check the timers here, 23:49 to 23:49. All right, time's nice and even, so I'm not spending too much time here. I'll try to speed it up a little bit so that I have the time advantage if I can. Oh, that's rough. Alright, Bone Splinter's the Wingmantle Chaplain. You got it. You certainly got it. Anointed Peacekeeper. Make Cavalier cost more? That's fine. Oh, they can make Drawbridge cost more, which is not fine. So I have to tap right now before they declare what they're making cost more. Yeah, they're actually probably making Drawbridge cost more, and then it's going to be 5 mana for the Drawbridge abilities. And I actually do want a 10th land. Oh, they are going to make Cavalier cost more. Okay. That's super fine with me. They made it the activated abilities of Drawbridge cost more. That would have been really bad. 1 mana Phalanx. That's pretty cool. I still have the mana to tap down 1 time if I cast Cavalier, so I think I will... Well, yeah, 4/4's probably better right now, isn't it? Now I can just discard a 5 mana Cavalier to the Guardian. Kind of like double tap off Drawbridge, though. Yeah, let's just get ready to start the double taps and keep getting the flyers in. Still don't like Guardian with Nubalia. They block with Splatter Goblin and slow down the birds. Let's just try to get the kill with the birds 4 more turns. If they've got a Planeswalker, this would be the turn. They can double up the abilities. A second Urza Assembles the Titans. There's no way they don't have a Planeswalker in that deck. And if they draw it, they can double up the abilities here, but if it's Liliana, it would be double black. So Auto Tapper messed them up, if it is Liliana. Two to the top, 2 to the bottom. Meteorite. Maybe it's just 5 mana Scryfor, I have no idea. I don't feel like it would be, but I mean, maybe. Now we tap down Splatter Goblin, I can get a Guardian of Nubalia attack in next turn. Okay, they are over it. They're going to scoop it up, not waste any more time with this one, because traditional draft rounds are timed. There is a chess clock, so they see the writing on the wall there. I believe we did have inevitability here. I mean, we have this massive board state. Even if they start shredding these birds down, we're drawing more cards, making sure we get more action to try to close the game out. Double Drawbridge still taps down multiple blockers. We start attacking with Benalia, giving it indestructible every attack. A lot of different facets and ways we could try to find lethal there. This opponent has Splatter Goblins. They've got ones. They got double Urza Assembles the Titan. I have to imagine that's getting sideboarded out here after its performance this game, but maybe not. They've got Cavaliers as 2/1s. Feels like Splatter Goblin's pretty good here. Sky Knight as well. They had one... No, they had 2 flyers. Sky Knight's really bad against Cavalier. But if we have Drawbridges down, it's good. But I've only got the 2 Drawbridges. Yeah, probably not worth it. I think that's the one change I want to make. Throw in the Splatter Goblin. What is bad in this matchup? That's what's good. What is bad? Probably Eerie Soul Tender. The game goes really long and milling like 3 could be a problem. Maybe Frightful Return. There wasn't a ton of removal over there. I think Griffin Protector looks pretty great here. Captain's Call's fine. The Barricade was huge. Tribute's fine. Shadow Prophecy's fine. Citizen's Arrest is fine. $18 creatures. We could drop a Soul Tender. Keep a Frightful Return. Actually, Frightful Return might not be the best here, because they do have a lot of creatures of their own as well. They are somewhat of a go-wide deck. A lot of token production for sure. The Frightful Return does make them sack a non-token, which is nice, but if you have a board state of like 3/1/1s and a 2/2, it's not that bad to sack the Argivian Cavalier, the 2/2. Another mono-white aggro hand here. One random drawbridge, which is a bit awkward, but Guardian and double Cavalier is exceptional. Guardian with Take Up the Shield, also great. So a definite keep here. I can enlist a 0/3 just to scry to this Guardian of New Benalia, which is pretty cool. I cannot attack profitably into a barricade though, even with the ability to give indestructible, even with the +1. So we're actually not attacking with the Guardian this turn. We're playing a Cavalier, which does give them a target for the Splatter Goblin, but it's going to make it so the Guardian is actually big enough to attack into this board state. So it's important enough to do that. Sorry, 1/1 soldier, you're probably dying to a Splatter Goblin. I guess if I'm convinced that I'm not going to be casting a Take Up the Shield, I can just tap down the Splatter Goblin. Battlefly Swarm, sure. Ooh, a Braid's Fright for a turn, that's a good one. I feel like I'd rather play another Cavalier than tap down the Splatter Goblin right now. We just let the Splatter Goblin get its value, kill our 1/1, and then we just play another Cavalier. Actually, no, I could just make my opponent discard a card by sacking this, but then I don't have a creature engrave. I lose Chapter 2 value to gain Chapter 1 value. That would have been interesting. Maybe I should have considered that as an option for how to use the 1/1. I could also make the 1/1 a 2/2 with Take Up the Shield, but I'm not sure that that's worth it either, because 2/2s aren't particularly great on this board. Splatter Goblin is solid. Cavalier, or Phalanx is great, and very cheap. I think I take Phalanx first, but Goblin's going to be nice in the future. Sacking a Goblin to a Braid's Fright for a turn could be huge. For now, I want to keep getting more big, aggressive creatures like the Phalanx, and now that I have a big creature like that, I want to keep Take Up the Shield for sure to save a Phalanx against a Death Touch block or something like that. Alright, so Splatter Goblin is going to go ahead and kill the soldier. Well, we'll get a new one with another Cavalier. And I actually think I keep this Plains in hand in case my opponent tries to Bone Splinter's Guardian or something during their turn. Because I know I'm not drawing a land next turn, so I know I just get to play Plains next turn anyway as land for turn. If I need that 4th mana, which I might. And yeah, this way I have an additional way to make sure that doesn't happen. Kicked Benalish Sleeper, that seems weird. I am incredibly happy with Kicked, because I'll just sack a 1/1 soldier and they'll sack a Battlefly Swarm. Seems like a very good deal. For me, that might have been a misclick. Definitely happens. Yeah, now that Phalanx costs 2, I do want to play the land to hold up Take Up the Shield, but we might have to discard Braid's Fright for a return to the Guardian of New Benalia. Or I could just attack with the Cavaliers this turn instead, because I know I'm getting Splatter Goblin next turn, which is pretty good on the board still against Benalish Sleeper. Yeah, I know my draw next turn is solid, so... Although, I could also just plan on Take Up the Shielding this turn instead. Yeah, that's also good. We'll do that. That way I get to scry 2 if I'm just going to Take Up the Shield either way. I like Griffin Protector as well. I think I will keep it in that order. Okay. Splatter Goblin definitely worse once the sleeper is gone. So that is unfortunate. They're down to 1 card in hand here. I feel like our board position is pretty commanding right now. Yeah, maybe I probably should have scryed the splatter away, or at least put the Griffin Protector on top instead. So I should have seen it's pretty likely they block with a 3-1 there. Don't think I played that out perfectly, but opponent got some pretty rough draws there. Especially game 1, those Assemble the Titans really did not work out for them. And we got a really nice aggressive curve here, so it's still going to close things out pretty efficiently. But again, I think I could have played a lot better, particularly with the scries. I don't think Splatter Goblin's actually ideal. The idea of Splatter Goblin, sacrificing the Splatter Goblin to Braid's Fright for a turn is pretty exciting, but not when our opponent doesn't have any 1-toughness creatures anyway. I should have just put Protector on top. Could have still put Splatter Goblin below it, that might have been okay. If I had double black and 3, so I'd have the mana to play Splatter Goblin and Fright for a turn in the same turn, then it would have been probably fine to keep Splatter Goblin on top, but yeah. And then some other lines there probably could have been done a little better, a little more aggressively, but it is what it is. We still get there pretty handily with an insanely good hand and an insanely busted rare. So no matter what happens now, we've got a positive record out of this draft as well. A nice 2-win run no matter what, but we're going to be fighting our best that we can. We are 2-0 and 4-0 for now. We'll see if we can keep that momentum up as we head into round 3. Here we are in round 3 of our traditional draft. This is another Wingmantle Chaplain hand. Drawbridge into Shield Wall Sentinel into Chaplain. So we will keep. Not going to be a great matchup if they are actually blue-red. If they're Domain, could be a problem as well. They could have a lot of big late game plays, and we do not have a lot of removal for that kind of stuff. So I don't think this is likely to be a great matchup. Because if they're a deck with a bunch of Essence Scatters, we can have some huge problems. If they're a deck with a bunch of big late game plays, we can have some huge problems there as well. Aether Channeler, a very nice rare here, super good value play. Every ability on this card is really nice in different situations, and they're going to go for the draw a card. Just a better Phyrexian Rager over there. We did draw a turn 3 play, which is excellent. Especially with how well that 1-1 plays into their 2-1 blocker. And a Talus Lookout from our opponents. We contribute to Urborg that card, which would be fine. And I can take up the shield to beat the Aether Channeler. I think I'll do that. Get a little aggressive here. It's going to put us behind in value, but every card they played so far is a 2-for-1. They have more draw spells in grave. This is a very good deck for my opponent. Pretty fearful of this matchup. Lots of good value stuff. They do have a plane, so they are relatively domainy. Amplifier is very good after you dump +1/+1 counters into something. It's also very good against tokens. They're going to kill the token instead. Right, with Cavalier here, do I just shield wall for the Wingmantle? Blue looks a little splashy here. There's a lot of red and white, but I mean, there's 3 blue cards in grave, including a double blue. Don't know how likely they are to have a bunch of scatters. If they have a bunch of scatters, we should probably just shield wall now, but kind of want to just keep playing out my threats. Again, you can enlist a 0-power creature, which is funny, but not great here. Yeah, definitely, again, as I said, worried about this matchup. It's multiple bounce creatures, so multiple ways to kill our tokens. And there it is, Tolarian Terror, a giant 5/5 body. Our deck has very low on removal. Luckily, we just top deck the only removal spell left in our deck. So we'll get rid of that. and stay as aggressive as we can. But if our opponent has the destroy evils, we are going to have problems. Opponent is down to 10. They've still got 4 cards to play around with though, and one of them is an additional Tolarian Terror. Not ideal. We do have a Griffin Protector here while they're tapped out, which is definitely good. And Enlist is a very powerful mechanic that allows me to still attack in here and potentially just trade into a Terror, which is what's happening. We've cleared out a Terror now. They do have access to black mana, so they could have Urborg Repossession to play yet another Terror. But another small blocker here. Things are going not horribly. Kind of want to Shadow Prophecy. I can Shadow Prophecy and Drawbridge this turn. This could be a removal spell here that will also make infantry bigger and Amplifier a bigger blocker for the turn. So we don't get an attack here if it is. If it's a counterspell, we don't get an attack either, but now they can't use that to counter Shield Wall Sentinel, which is very good for us. So no attacks this turn. I could threaten to kill infantry, but if they have one more spell in hand, that's going to blow up in my face, so I don't think I'd do that. I think I just tap during their turn. For now, we hit them for 2. They seem pretty likely to have a spell. They are getting the timer during our turn. Which means one more instant in their hand, probably an Impulse or something. Maybe a Tribute to Urborg. They have blue, black, and red up, so it could be Lightning Strike, Impulse, Tribute to Urborg. If it was Lightning Strike, they would have just killed Protector. So Tribute to Urborg or Impulse, most likely. There's other cards it could be. It could be a Shore Up. Looks like it is an Impulse, or they just drew into an Impulse. Feeling actually kind of okay about our position here, despite all the nice value stuff in our opponent's deck. They are valuing their way into a lot of lands. Tap down infantry. Go to our turn. They just have an Amplifier up. We've got a Knight of Dawn's Light that we can cast and give the Protector an additional power this turn. I'm gonna cast this here. And if they have the Scatter, it's drawn out to the Knight of Dawn's Light. That is their final card in hand. They do have a Lightning Strike to kill the Griffin Protector. Unfortunate. But now they are out of cards in hand. We know this threat resolves, which is going to be a huge one. They're going to be down to just an Electrostatic Infantry to block with. Do I just Shield Wall Sentinel? I think I Shield Wall for the Wing Mantle and pass and just hope they don't top deck Scatter. Trade for Amplifier here. Don't think I do. Because if they don't draw an instant sorcery, it's a 1 power blocker. Ooh, boy!
Flames roar, but with a little focus, they can purr.
They probably have to -1 here. They're in a +1 though.
The experience will do you good.
Oh, you can only play the card this turn. Okay. Well, here's Wing Mantle. That's a guaranteed play. Guaranteed locking down the infantry, so we can attack with everything that's at least 2 power. -2, choose creature opponent controls. Whenever you attack this turn, it deals damage equal to the number of attacking creatures to that creature. I feel like I have to just go face. Chai is a big deal, though. Big old deal. Double block, trade into Cavalier. They're going to have one blocker next turn, which is a monk, or whatever they hit off the top. Should all but guarantee lethal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 if I double pump, which I have the mana to do off drawbridge. They're digging for something. Rona's Vortex, that's definitely an out. Definitely an out. Put the Knight of Dawn's Light on the bottom of our library. We probably kill Jaya now, since we can't kill them. Oh, they're going to tap down the drawbridge. That's a fair choice. Although now they're out of cards and I can just triple pump Knight to 5 power. Everything else hits for 4. I could just lose Knight of Dawn's Light to kill Jaya now, which I think is the play. They block Knight, Jaya takes 1, 2, 3, 4. And then next turn we can just definitely kill them.
Now you can tell everyone you beat the
They block Cavalier, take 5. I guess they don't quite die. They're dead in 2 attacks for sure. If they have a take up the shield, I'm going to cry myself to sleep tonight. I should have enlisted the Cavalier. I did not know all attack would not let me enlist. But doesn't matter, that's the one they block anyway. Alright, they need a big out here. They need the 1 damage to all creatures. The Elder Dragon War is a rare that's 2 damage to all creatures. That would work as well. Alright, opponent's deck is quality. They just had a kind of slow, awkward draw. Clumped into a lot of lands. But opponent's deck is really, really good. No matter what happens here, I'm surprised and happy I took 1 game off of this deck. This deck is absurd. Very good blue-red spells deck. It's got the terrors. It's got the amplifiers. It's got the lightning strike, the impulses. Has the counter spells, the Urtai's Scorn. Got lookouts for value, Aether Channelers for value. Vortex for good removal. Jaya as a mythic rare planeswalker bomb. This is just an exceptional blue-red spells deck here. Probably just has the Grotto and all of the domain lands to help splash in off-color kickers like Rona's Vortex. Rona's Vortex kickers off of Aquifer, maybe Tolarian Geyser kickers off the white sources. Every source they played is blue or red outside of Crystal Grotto, and this 1 plains. So they looked more multicolored than they were. They're actually just blue-red. If they're playing a straight-up plains, there's probably 1 white spell in there, and not just white kickers. But primarily blue-red spells, great stuff there. I don't think we have a sideboard for this matchup. We don't have a sideboard for a lot of matchups. Stall for time, not really doing much. Splatter Goblin's not doing much. I think we just have to hope to run it back, get as lucky as we did that game again in game 2. Let's see. Well, I think I have to mulligan this one. This is not Clockwork Drawbridge Wingmantle Chaplain. This is Clockwork Drawbridge Captain's Call, which is significantly worse. Mulligan that. This is horrible. Mono black hand with double white card. I could have still... I know I can Rager on turn 3 to try to hit that white source, and mulligan down to 5 lowers your chances of winning a lot. Being down 2 cards, not drawing a white source does lower our chances of winning a dramatic amount as well, but I think I could put Aaron on the bottom, and then if there's a plains in the next 4 cards, so we've dug 7 cards deep already. We draw 3 cards deeper by the time we cast the Rager, which means we've drawn 10 out of our 40 cards. We'll have drawn 11 out of our 40 cards before we need the white source. I think is decent enough odds. We get to look at 4 more cards off the top digging for a white source before we need it. Because we go draw for turn, draw for turn, draw for turn, draw from Rager. Oh, and our turn 4 draw for turn. So we get to dig 5 cards deep before we need the plains. Yeah, I'm going to keep this. If there's not a plains in the top 5 cards, then we're punished for this keep. Okay, 2 down, 3 to go. Phyrexian Espionage, we're drawing some cards, getting some good setup here. 3 down, 2 draws to go. 4 draws, 1 draw to go. I do have a Shield Wall Sentinel to cast no matter what now. There's a Talus Lookout. And there we go, it was the 5th card, and while they're tapped out, I'm just playing the Chaplain. Send in the Rager if they want to trade Lookout into that. I'm very cool. Otherwise, just bounce off. Just get the Chaplain in under any counter spells. It is going to die to Lightning Strikes now, unfortunately, if they have that instead. But we can't really play around both counter spells and Lightning Strikes. Tori Davenant is the splash off of white. Going to give all their attacking creatures +1/+1 every time she attacks. Threatening, for sure. Definitely need to get more birds to block Lookout. I need 3 when they have a Tori down, so we play Drawbridge and Shield Wall Sentinel. Do I want a Shield Wall for an additional Drawbridge? Probably. So I can play as many cheap creatures as possible. So, actually they have 2 mana up for Essence Scatter, but we didn't see any Essence Scatter. We saw the 3 mana counterspell, the Urtai's Scorn. But true, if they have Essence Scatter, it's probably better to play Drawbridge first, then try to play the Shield Wall Sentinel. I guess if I played Shield Wall first, I could try to play Phalanx this turn instead, and then I have a really good blocker on the ground for Tori. That might have actually been better. But Tori doesn't get +1/+1 power. So if they don't have a combat trick here, I can block with a 2/2 and a 1/3 wall. All I really want here is a 1-mana defender. Barricade's fine here, but I don't think I have enough mana or time to try to abuse that right now, so I think it is one of the 1-mana defenders. I want the one that might have a decent ability for later, or just the one that's easier to cast. I can still cast a white spell. I probably want Bulwark, because my hand's entirely white spells, so I want to be able to dump 2 spells out next turn, and I can't do that unless I have something I can cast without white mana. Alright, let's see if we're going to get blown out by some combat tricks here. If they attack, I might just not block, because it feels like a position you don't attack unless you have the tricks. I can make some blocks where nothing that bad happens if they do have a trick. Like if they have a trick here, oh no, I lost my 1/3 and 2/2. I don't think I triple block Lookout, because if they have a trick there, that's going to be disastrous. Then I don't think I block Tide Turner with Chaplain, but I could do it with Drawbridge, because I'm not really going to be holding that mana up easily. Although that is an important ability. Might just take 6 here. It's an important ability, but not an ability I have the white mana to hold up anytime soon. Yeah, if they have the +2/+1, they can't have the +2/+1 to everybody, so they need 2 tricks to kill both these. And if they have a trick, they're going to use it to save Tori, so we'll do this. Take 4. And they save Tori here. Okay, Flowstone Infusion it is. And then Tolarian Terror is the play. Not ideal. Griffin Protector's kinda nice. I can tap down Tori if I hold 3 mana up, which means I go Bulwark here, and then I could still tap down Tori. That's the only way, because I have all white cards and 1 white source. I don't get to block Terror, but I get to tap down Tori, which means the only thing that attacks is the Terror. Could play Phalanx instead. And I have a big blocker on the ground. They're down to 2 spells here when it comes to tricks. Be a lot harder for them to win combat. this time, especially with a 4/4 to block the Tory. 4/4 to block the Tory probably also disincentivizes the Tory from getting in here. It's going to accomplish the same thing as the drawbridge would while also building my board states. I think I want all 4 birds back. That way I can quadruple block Lookout if they attack with everybody, so that if they're trying to use a Lightning Strike or Flowstone Infusion to kill one creature and win the fight, I will still kill the Talus Lookout. E2 Amplifier, that is really good here. 2 mana up. 1 mana up? They can play a Shore Up. Or Timely Interference. Doesn't feel like they really have either of those, so I'm pretty sure we just kill Tory. Blocking with 4 birds plays around both. The drawbridge. Mana is a lot, and taking 10 puts me to 2, puts me to dead to Lightning Strikes. I don't think I can do that, so I think I trump with drawbridge here. Although I am out of defenders in hand, so it might be better to just block with Chaplain. How many defenders are left in the deck? Not a lot. 1. There's 2 defenders left in the entire deck out of these 26 cards. Feel like I have to just drop the Chaplain to stay alive now. What is their 1 mana card? Nothing. Okay. 1 card in hand, it is not a 1 mana trick. Although I guess a 1 mana trick wouldn't have affected that combat at all. Still stuck on a single white is really bad. I'm drawing nothing but white cards. Getting kind of like... I wasn't punished in that I didn't get the white source, but I am getting punished that I'm drawing exclusively white cards. Been really bad. I think I have to play Griffin Protector so I can actually block and trade with Lookouts. And I have to chump block Terror for another turn. Automatic Librarian, very good card for our opponent. They get to scry 2 here. I feel like we'd be in a pretty great spot with double white. Without it is just so rough, though. Opponent is out of cards. They're going to get 1 back when we block this Lookout now. We're never attacking, so we probably chump with Bulwark because it has 0 power. Although it can block all these 1/2s. And Drawbridge is going to start being tapped every turn. Take 5 to the face and I'm dead to Lightning Strike. I don't think I can just take 5 to the face. I do have multiple other creatures that are going to be really good at blocking things on the ground, so we'll block with the Bulwark. Lightning Strike Drawbridge it is. No additional terror. I cannot draw my planes. Yeah, we're pretty dead. If I play 1 blocker here, have to chump block 1 terror, so I chump block with the bird. Phalanx blocks any other creature, I guess, and it's the most expensive card to play. Top deck the Vortex. Seems good. So we go to 1 life there and lose our whole board. That was brutal. Just needed another planes. If I hit double planes like early on in that game, I think we would have been in the lead. But just all these creatures in hand, like just enough creatures in hand to deal with everything, just can't get them on the board. We just don't have the mana to. I could sideboard another planes, but then I'm going to draw no swamps. The brutal way to lose round 2. We will be on the play here, which is super nice. Put in another plains. I'm gonna draw 0 swamps this game. I'm ready for it. Well, I mean, that's technically 0 swamps. That's accurate. Alright, we will keep this one. I take it the shield doesn't really do anything here, so I think we have to get rid of that. Although Tribute to Urborg isn't great against their deck, it does kill the flyer. I think I could get rid of Citizen's Rest because I'm incapable of drawing a second plains. Or I could be, as I was last game. Yeah, I mean, there's just nothing to do with Take Up the Shield right now. And I have 10 plains in the deck now. So, if we can't find the second plains this game as well, then our fate was predestined and there's not much I can do about that. With 10 plains in the deck. Electrostatic Infantry. I'm incredibly happy to just kill that right off the bat. That out of my life. There's the plains. Let's go. Perfect mana. Never didn't have it. Shield Wall Sentinel and Argivian Cavalier are the options for Soul Tender later. Volsh Tide Turner. That is their only non-grotto blue source. And I have nothing else to do here. This might seem loose, but I think I want to try to restrict them on blue mana. Keep them from their blue draw spells, make them use the grotto, which slows them down. I do have to draw straight gas, but that was going to be true regardless. Tori. Alright, Soul Tender trades into that. Braids is Frightful Return. Oh yeah, Drawbridge just keeps that locked down forever because I have nothing else to do. Braids Frightful Return is actually not bad here either. Sack Soul Tender, make our opponent discard a card. We can use Soul Tender to return another creature from grave to hand. And the next turn we return Shield Wall. Do I want to make them discard or tap down the Tori? Tori only does 3 damage to us this turn. Honestly, I think Sack Soul Tender seems pretty fine. Start on chapter 1 here. They discarded Tolarian Terror. Very nice to get that out of the way for when they do hit the blue source. Alright, there's Impulse, having to spend 3 mana using the grotto. And they dug for the island. There they go. Well, now don't have to deal with that Tolarian Terror at least. Taking 3 damage. They've got 2 mana up, but we still have not seen a single copy of Essence Scatter. We've seen the 3 mana counterspell. But I think I get Shield Wall Sentinel. Although I suppose if I do so, and they have the 3 mana counterspell, they can hold it up and just cast it on the Wingmantle Chaplain. Can get a Cavalier here instead. We've seen 1 counterspell in both rounds. I'm gonna take the Sentinel. Seen a single counterspell. Like, if a Chaplain resolves, it should be. Pretty incredible here. 3 birds. Lightning Strike the Drawbridge to lower the amount of birds we could potentially get. Stop us from tapping things down, and they are going to tap out for Molten Monstrosity. Yep, this is a problem. Our deck is just not good against big creatures. We do not have enough removal. So we are going to take a big hit from the biggest flaws in our deck here, just the lack of removal. They have 2 cards in hand. They had no spells left last turn. They attack with Tori, I'll triple block. Oh! If we weren't already in a bad position, opponent going up 4 cards is gonna make sure that we are now. This call is actually kind of interesting with Griffin Protector. Try to outrace them. It's gonna be hard, but possible. But the fact that their whole board has trample, I don't think we can win here, but we need to just try to outrace here. Because if the game goes long, we can't beat their deck of just tons of 5/5s and massive amounts of value. 9 trampling damage, so we have to block here. Block 3 of it. They have an additional lightning strike, we're just dead. Okay, that'll kill us too. Seems good. Rough stuff in the last round. I think that was again a really bad matchup for us. We don't have good removal against these big 5/5s. And our opponent has a ton of great value plays to make sure that they are beating us in terms of card advantage as well most often. So I'm pretty happy with how hard we competed there. I think we could have won round 2 with some better draws. Maybe I should have mulliganed more aggressively there, but I think the mulligan was, or the keep was fine considering. We just needed to hit 1 planes in the top 5 cards. I didn't account for if every draw from that point on was also a white spell. That would then be really, really bad, and that is what ended up happening. But yeah, if we hit like a second planes round 2, I think that was our big opportunity to win. I don't think this game we're winning this one, regardless of draws or lines here. Rough way to end it, but a pretty close round overall, which I think is pretty solid for how that matchup is. Again, don't think the matchup was very good or super winnable. And so the fact that we got pretty close, I'll be relatively proud of that. And a nice 2-1 run overall. So, yeah, decent play this time. Unfortunately, not great value. The one kind of bummer about traditional drafts, with premier drafts, you're getting good value at 4 and 3, so at like a slightly better than average run or better, you're getting good value, you're getting all your gems back. Traditional drafts, if you have a better than average run, a 2-win, 1-loss run, literally winning twice as many rounds as you lose, you're still not getting your money back. That is the one big bummer of traditional drafts, but it can still be fun. Do some best of 3 rounds. Make sure that you're playing 3 rounds with your deck no matter what. But yeah, seeing just 1,000 wins for a 66% win rate run is always a bit of a bummer. Regardless, cool stuff from the deck. Pretty much the same deck as last time. This time with a more aggressive curve. The Cavaliers, the Phalanxes and stuff were all excellent. Our pick 1, pack 1 rare was phenomenal. And we got some nice aggro curves, some really lucky rounds, really lucky aggressive games in the first 2 rounds. So it is fair enough to have a little bit of an unlucky game 2 in the final round to make up for all of that luck early on. But that is going to end today's video. I hope you all enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed playing it. And as always, if you'd like to see more Magic Arena content like this, wow, I've botched the outro of this video. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to let the YouTube algorithm know to send some more of these videos to you in your recommended feeds. And once again, thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.